Yeah, it looks like we're live. So
Cool.
I'll do an introduction and we'll see if anybody even sees it. So if
Cool.
you guys can hear me and if you can see me, tell me in the comments. And obviously the urban prepper is here, so hopefully you can see him and hear him as well. But welcome to Marauder Mondays. We're gonna do this thing. And if you guys, feel that we need to somehow look better for you, let us know. But I don't think there's much we can do,
Yeah, we're done with that. So
Yeah,
we
yeah.
we went
So
through wardrobe and makeup though before we're going live. So
yeah, no, I need a little bit more blush, but I didn't have
yeah,
time. So,
yeah.
and well, I don't even know what that is, but anyway, so Urban Preppers here. Let's see, in here, Tasha Hicks, thanks for letting us know. ND Prepper, snowing in North Dakota today. Yeah, and I was outside actually. It was a great time. And then, yep, let's see. Griseo Nemo says we can see and hear you. So perfect. All right.
Cool.
Looks like we're getting started here. Steve F says Urban with a sweet lid.
Yeah, thank you. That's fine.
It's
It's part of my branding now.
It's a call sign. You're kind of stuck with it now, right?
Yeah, I can't switch up the glasses or shave or trade out my hat. But
I mean, I'll get reamed just for wearing the beanie tonight. I know it already.
yeah,
so, but it's cool. We're good. We're with good people here. So
everyone seems pretty friendly. So
yeah. So you guys, welcome to Marauder Mondays live, and obviously tonight we have a special guest, and I do want to thank you for joining me tonight. Appreciate it. I think that anytime we get people in the preparedness community together and we have different opinions and perspectives come in about, different ideas about preparedness in general, it's very eye-opening for everyone to kind of take those perspectives and do what they will with them, when they can apply it to their own situation. And especially you coming from the urban environment and kind of being specialized in that urban preparedness, I think that's super important and valuable for most people, considering the population centers are there,
Yeah. I guess there's more people in the city than there are elsewhere, but
yeah,
which has pros and cons with that. So.
There's definitely a lot of pros and cons when it comes to the differences, right?
Yeah.
But that shouldn't negate the fact that a lot of people who want to be prepared live in the city, so they should have an outlet to figure out, what their best moves are, what they can do to be, one step ahead of the crowd or whatever else it might be, So I think what you do in the sense of like specializing towards that, demographic, the people who live within the cities, I think that's very, valuable. I think it's important.
Yeah, when I first started the channel, I had no idea that it would become my thing. It was just something at the time when I started the channel back in 2011. There weren't a lot of people talking about urban preparedness. A lot of it was folks that are in a rural environment where they're talking about fishing nets and stuff. And I'm like, well, there's nowhere I could fish anywhere near. I'm closer to a Starbucks than I am to any kind of stream or something. So, but it's helped kind of help define my channel and focus my topics. And I have, over the years, you find out there's a lot of preppers that you would never think are preppers, but they're in an urban environment, mostly due to economic reasons, because that's where their job is. Like, and for myself, for example, I work in software engineering, and so I have to be close to the city because there's not that many software engineering jobs out in the mountains.
Yeah, no, 100%. And something, I've talked to somebody locally recently about, preparedness in general, and something they like to reference is, they still live in the real world. Like they still live in today, and like they still have to like work a job and like provide for their family in a sense of quality of life. Not everything can be specifically built around being prepared for an end of a world event,
Yeah.
So I think that's, a lot of people's situation with the cities, that's where the money's at. That's where you go to move up in your career, and sometimes it's circumstance what keeps you there.
Yeah, I think a lot of the things that I think the popular things with prepping are things like zombies and apocalypse stuff and whatever it is, EMPs and stuff like that. But really, I think the most common preparedness emergencies is loss of job, or getting sick, or getting in a car accident, or things like that. And those are things I think that are universal, that everyone should be kind of preparing for, whether they live in the city or they live in the suburbs or they live in the desert. It doesn't seem to matter. So I think, but whatever it takes, I think for you to start looking into getting preparedness, whatever gets you in that foot in the door, I'm all game for. So
yeah. Well, and you can kind of equate it to the concept that somebody will be prepared for, like you said, the zombie apocalypse, for example.
Yep.
But then they'll be willing to drive halfway across the state in a snowstorm wearing flip-flops and sweatpants because, their car's not going to break down and they won't get a flat tire.
Yeah.
So, there is definitely that kind of, emphasis on things that are less likely. And sometimes that's a little bit misplaced,
Yeah, I used to be kind of against the whole zombie preparedness thing because I'm like, there's no such thing. Even, but over time, I've come to actually appreciate it because if they're prepared for zombies, they're probably prepared for other things like an earthquake. I bet they have a lot of they probably gravitate more towards some of the self-defense and weaponry if you're preparing for zombies, but they probably still have some first aid items and food and water and things like that. So if you're into zombies and preparing for that, then I'm all for that now. So, but it took me several years to get to that point.
And when you look at it, coming from Florida originally with the hurricane preparedness, it's like, if you get prepared for hurricanes, great. But, you're probably prepared for any other natural disaster by doing the same exact things.
Totally.
So there is a lot of, bleed over, I guess you would say,
Yeah, totally.
Okay. I do want to let you guys know in the chat, thank you for the super chat. I'm going to say your name is G-Jilt or something, I can't read that. I'm not going to lie to you. But,
I saw when it came in and I was trying to figure it out too.
Yeah, but I appreciate it. Thank you so much. And like I always say, you guys do not have to send super chats. Make sure you're prepared for yourself before you ever send anything my way. And it's not required until I get your questions answered or anything. If you guys have questions tonight for the Urban Prepper, make sure you, tag me and him in the chat. So that way it gives us both a chance to see it come through in case one of us misses it. And we can try our best to kind of address some things. I will say I do want to go ahead and get some of my Patreon questions in. So if you're not on Patreon, totally fine. But I did offer, the patrons over there to just ask some questions ahead of time to see if there was anything they had to ask for the Urban Prepper tonight. And one of those questions is, this is from, all right. So, and I don't know if they want me to say their name, so I'm just not going to, but they'll know I asked it at least.
Okay.
What would you recommend in the sense of like mapping apps? Because what they're saying is that they're having a hard time finding paper maps that are applicable to like their immediate area, and like that print offs and stuff from Google Maps just have like limited, capability. Yeah. So they want to know if you had any suggestions for like programs or something you might use for like maps for like, you like getting like a bug out route or something along those lines.
Totally. What I use, I have a de-Googled phone for kind of my prepper phone it's using Graphene OS, and I have a lot of apps that I get through F-Droid. And the one that I use personally for apps is called OSM, and it's an open source offline complete offline map. It doesn't require internet access, and it has nice topographical maps to it. It's pretty detailed. I use it for geocaching and other things. And again, it doesn't matter if the network's down at the time; you could still use it, assuming that your phone still works. So that's the one that I use personally for maps, and I think it's awesome.
So, and is that something that updates regularly due to it being like open source?
Yeah, it updates just like kind of how it does from the Google Play Store. I frequently update through it's just through F-Droid when it's on a de-Googled phone like Lineage or what some of the other ones. So again, I use Graphene OS for my phone, which it's kind of nice. It's freeing, and I feel a little bit more peace of mind with the whole surveillance and tracking thing, because I do it because I'm kind of anti getting advertisements for if I walked into some kind of building. Like I several years back, we were looking for a rowing machine, and we walked into a rowing machine store, and we didn't buy anything. I didn't do it. I wasn't on my phone or anything. And then the next thing I know, I'm getting ads on my work computer on our TV for rowing machines, and it drove me bonkers. So I went to having a de-Googled phone, kind of getting off the grid a little bit in that regards. And then I had to look for a map, because previously I was using Google Maps or Waze or something like that. And OSM and is the one to get. And yeah, it'll update, and you could download the topographical maps for your region. I think it's really good.
Cool. And just so you guys know, the re-upload of the live stream will post on the channel like afterward. So if you miss any of this stuff and you need to reference it later, just go back and you can, zip through the re-upload and find the information if you need to. And that's kind of funny you say that, because I actually have this struggle where my wife wanted this particular sports bra, right? And I was like, all right, yeah, I'll order it for you. And now every ad I get on YouTube is like the sports bra commercial. And I'm like, I'm a dude, like leave me alone, But it's just like over and over again, like, you better buy this sports bra. And I'm like, relax, I already did. So
yeah, that's right.
So that's cool. And I do think it's really important to have, like you said, you have that level of anonymity, that protection, but you also have something that works offline. And I think that's what people are looking for the most,
And you could have the hard maps, but you don't get the level of detail for one particular region. I like having a map for the entire Pacific Northwest because I'm in like the greater Seattle area, but I still want to have maps for Idaho and Oregon and stuff. And having just hard copies of those that they could add up in weight, especially if you get them laminated, for example. So I find that this app works really well.
Cool. All right. Well, good to know. All right. And let's see here. I see there's a few people in the chat here. I do want to say, thank you, Kenneth Christian. We appreciate it. Artie Bands, appreciate that as well. And let's see. So Guardian Survival came in and asked, what do y'all think is the most likely SHTF event that could occur? Is it like World War III, EMP, financial breakdown? So, what would be your thoughts on that? Just considering where we are now, like, is there anything that sticks out to you as being more likely than something else possibly at this point?
I think economic is the one I'm always concerned about. I mean, me in the Pacific Northwest, we're kind of in the rim of fire, so I'm always worried about earthquake and volcanic eruptions and tsunamis and stuff like that. But I think most likely it's like economic. That's the one that concerns me. And you could think about it from a small scale, just like I might not have my job for a little bit, but you could also think from a larger scale, like total economic collapse. That's the stuff that keeps me up and makes me worry and helps. It forces me to want to prepare more, and especially in precious metals and other ways of money that's not just paper money that you could just print, I guess. So.
I'm actually in the same boat there, because I think that the economic collapse can lead to a lot of other events that we talk about regularly, including like conflict. So I feel like that's something that's more likely just because of the kind of bubble we've all been living on for a while now,
Yep, totally. I saw someone in the chat room was saying your phone's always listening to. One thing you might want to look into is they sell these little, it's called a mic lock. If you're really concerned about that, you could assuming that you have an aux port on your phone. If you have an iPhone, you might not. But on all the phones I have an auxiliary port. You could put one of these on there, and basically it shuts off your microphone. So even if you're super concerned about that, even if you have a very secure phone, you could put one of those on, and now you no longer have to worry about someone actually listening to you. So interesting.
Okay, cool. Good tip. So, and that kind of will take me into one of my questions I had for you. So, and real quick, I want to say hello to Survival Living and hello to Northern Girl Hobbies. Thank you so much for being here and being mods tonight. So awesome mods here and awesome content creators too. So make sure you guys check them out. And I know Survival Living is the man when it comes to bushcraft, like living out in the wilderness and making it happen. So.
Yeah, I'd be screwed in a lot of that situation. So.
Yeah, no, that guy could be able to eat off snare traps for the rest of his life if he wants to. So, so one of my questions is, I am obviously I'm an everyday carry advocate. I am a everyday carry enthusiast, you might say. I started a company called EDC Specialties back in the day. Cool. So that's just stuff that I really enjoy, and I know it's something you touch base on quite a bit on your channel. And I just wanted to know, I don't want to know your specific everyday carry loadout. I don't need a pocket dump, but what different tools on EDC would you say are like the most important for especially in an urban environment? And let's talk about maybe somebody who doesn't have the ability to, carry a firearm or something like that. Somebody who's worried about the best they can do without that option, maybe,
Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, for me, I kind of break down EDC in a series of tiers or layers, basically, where you have your core EDC items. But if we're just talking I call them prepper tools, which I keep on me in my front pocket. For me, I think the most important urban preparedness tool is a multi-tool. So any kind of Leatherman would be just fine for that, a Leatherman Wave or whatever it is. So for me, yes, skeletal. For me, I have I carry two knives with me. I never thought I'd be a two-knife person, but I carry my primary one, which is a Benchmade bug out. And then as my auxiliary blade, I also have one of these little Gerber utility blades, which I think is really nice. Most of the time when I'm using my knife, I feel like it's almost insulting for the Benchmade bug out to use it for opening up packages from the mail. So that's why I use the utility blade for that. So I can keep this one nice and clean for other things. So
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So I like having the two knives and I have them one in each pocket. So, and then as far as tools go, I have the multi-tool in my pocket. I also think that it's important to have a lighter on you for preparedness. I would never want to be, if I ever were to get stuck in the middle of the Amazon jungle or something, I don't want to have to do a friction-based lighter fire. So I just always carry a big lighter with me all the time now. You don't have to worry about refilling it. I used to do some of the ones that you would refill. They're a little bit smaller, but after over time, you just forget one day, and then now it doesn't work. But I think as a prepper, it's always important to be able to start fire no matter where you're at any time, even if it's at a kid's birthday party. They're gonna if you're the prepper at a kid's birthday party, they're gonna look to you to be able to start fire. And if you're not ready to go with it, then you kind of lose some credibility. So I think it's also good to have a pen with you, any kind of pen. I prefer the Fisher Space pens for tools. And I think in an urban environment, some things I don't touch about it too much in my channel, but for self-defense type things, I've been carrying pepper gel now. So not the pepper spray, because if it's windy in Seattle, it's raining a lot, there's wind and stuff, but the gel, which is more of like kind of like that dinosaur from Jurassic Park that shoots the substance on
the Dilophosaurus.
Yeah, the Dilophosaurus. Yeah, it's one of those. And I use the Saber brand for that. I have it now attached to all my bags. I'm looking for my bags that are nearby, but I also carry it in all of my pockets. I think it's important to have that. And nowadays, for like if you have a backpack, whatever you have in your backpack, I'm always putting a soft ballistic shield in there, and is what I use. So just a little extra level of protection. I think every backpack nowadays, with all the crazy stuff going on, it doesn't hurt to add that level of protection, even if the chances are rare. It gives me a little bit of peace of mind. So.
Yeah, no, that's cool. It's kind of like deployable cover if you need it to be or something.
Yeah, I kind of everything that I think about prepping, I kind of have an analogy with some kind of movie. I always think about the movie 300, where they had all their shields, and when they combined all their shields together, it kind of created this impenetrable. They couldn't get into them. So I kind of think the same thing with backpacks. You could technically do so.
Man, and there is definitely a term for that exact formation that I cannot think of right now.
I was trying to think I wanted to have that good term with me, and someone in the chat room probably knows right off the bat, but
yeah, they're gonna say it's like, I want to say it's like the phalanx or something like that, but I think I'm
wrong. There's some specific terms, but
yeah.
But yeah, those are things that come to mind for urban environment. I think a lot of preparedness it doesn't matter as far as like the tools that you have, as long as you have like that situational awareness and knowledge and a lot of those skills. But if we're talking pure tools, I think those are the important ones to have. At least I think for preparedness, EDC should be the first thing. If you're just getting started with prepping, start with your EDC, because you're actually going to use that stuff fairly often, versus like starting with a bug out bag. I started with a bug out bag, and I still haven't had to use my bug out bag for an actual emergency. But with my EDC, I use my EDC all the time, and you kind of feel like you're getting your money's worth when you make an investment into an EDC tool, for example.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And also, I have flashlight. I forgot about flashlight too. So.
Oh, you gotta have a flashlight. Yeah.
I like the Baton series from Olight. They're super easy to charge. They're just the right size. They're plenty bright enough, and those are the ones I use.
Cool. Yeah, and I have a couple of those actually. They're pretty nice lights.
Yeah.
I definitely think EDC is like your first line, of not of like defense necessarily, but like your first line of tools, the ones that you'll have on you no matter where you're at. Because you never know, you might walk into a store to make a purchase, and that's when something happens and you're locked in that store now for who knows how long. And that's what you have on you, and that's it. That bug out bag is in your home, or that get home bag's in your vehicle. Doesn't help you in that moment, but what you have in your pockets will,
Yeah. I used to call everything my EDC. Oh, by the way, someone said phalanx. That's the term for the shield. So
okay, cool.
Who's that? Fat Man Prepper. Thank you, Fat Man Prepper.
I got one right. I just wasn't sure. I wasn't confident,
Yeah. Cool. What was I saying? Oh yeah. For me, I used to call everything my EDC lunchbox or my EDC backpack. But for me, it's like EDC. You should be able to use your EDC when you least expect it. So for me now, if it's not in with me, like at a public restroom, or then it's not my EDC. It's something else. If it's in the car at my desk or something. So I feel like that's like you're most vulnerable and not expecting something. So if you have it on you, then that's your EDC.
Awesome. And I do want to take a second to just thank you directly for allowing me to reference a dinosaur name within this chat.
That was big time. That was big time.
Yeah, I got to throw down some of my Jurassic knowledge, and I was like, yeah, I knew it.
You came up with it so quickly. I was totally spacing on the Dilophosaurus.
Yeah, no, I might have too much of an affinity with dinosaurs, but it's a different story.
Well, and I do know from the book that the Dilophosaurus was like it was really small in the movie, but in the book it's like a humongous one from what I know about my dinosaur. So
yeah, well, they did a lot of fun stuff in the book that they didn't do in the movie. So
yeah, it's like all books.
Yeah, that's how it's supposed to be. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's see. I know there's some more stuff happening in the chat here. Gosh, I'm always trying to. Okay, so like Nicole Machoud said, never thought Seattle would fall from grace as it has. And then Pepper Gel with a sad face. So like,
Yeah.
I mean, I would assume like even regardless of some of the recent events that have occurred in that area, I mean, urban environments have always had a necessity for things like Pepper Gel, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and Seattle is definitely, it's not the same Seattle that it was 20 years ago. Seattle used to be a place where in the evenings, like for Christmas shopping, for example, you'd want to go to downtown Seattle and go Christmas shopping there and ride like the horse-drawn carriages and do all those kind of things. The trees. Now it feels really unsafe in a lot of spots compared to what it used to, and it's been getting progressively worse. Though there's other, like if you go over to Bellevue or Redmond, for example, it's really nice. It's like Seattle was back in the 90s, a little bit more. They don't. How do I say it? It's just a little nicer over there. So yeah, it's kind of sad to see a lot of the stuff that happens in the urban environment, but it's still the Pacific Northwest in general is a really beautiful place to live. I like the water, I like the hills, the trees, the mountains. There's still a lot of great outdoor activity stuff that's around the Seattle area. I work in Seattle area, but I'm outside of Seattle as far as where we sleep at. But yeah, it is definitely for those that have been in the area or used to be in the area. It's definitely not the same Seattle that it was 20 years ago and more.
I think that's pretty, common throughout any area at this point. Any metropolitan area is probably seeing that kind of a regression at this point,
Yeah.
So Chris Penton came in. I did actually see your comment before, so thanks for the super chat. But so I've been listening for a couple of years now. I got to ask, is that a Middle Earth map behind you? Yes, it is. It's actually part of my bug out plan. So I just need to make sure I can get back to the Shire, But
that's awesome.
Yeah. No, I'm like an eclectic guy. I like to read. I like different genres when it comes to fantasy. You can say that I enjoy things all the way from things like I Am Legend all the way to the Lord of the Rings. So
yeah, you have a lot of cool cool visuals in the background. We were talking earlier. I changed my background to just be something totally plain, and yeah, I like looking in the background to see all the different things you have. I think everyone has to. Yeah.
Your focus, is you, which is great. For me, I'm trying to make people be unaware of the fact that they're staring at me.
Yeah. I went with gray, like the whole gray man thing, but I wanted like more of the focus towards what I was saying. But yeah, I think everyone kind of has the things that are the unique things that they're into. I'm super into pro wrestling, for example, and other things. So, and a lot of my philosophies have come from like the Attitude Era, WWF times of wrestling. So, but other things like that too. So
that's all right. If there's one thing I could take from pro wrestling, it was just that Always Sunny reference of Hulk Hogan having the skin of a hot dog. So.
I almost spit on my coffee. That was good.
So let's see. I want to jump back in over here and get another patron question in here for you. So let's see. So I'm only going to take like one out of this list just because they gave me a good list here, and I want to kind of just keep this tight and easy. So I guess one of their questions is like, what type of like IFAK would you recommend? Like, what do you recommend in the sense of like a first aid kit for, especially being in like your urban environment? Like, is it something you carry on your person, something that's in your bag? Like, what's your thought?
So I think you should again have different layers of IFAK. I always carry something in my person in my back pocket here. I have little modules. My IFAK is in the color red, and I like having a lot of the modern wound dressings that aren't like typical Band-Aids and gauze. They have a lot of the stuff that they use at the hospital. It's a lot more expensive, but it's super good stuff like Tegaderm, for example, I would have in my pocket. And you could do a lot of different wounds that way. I have Manuka honey and Steri-strips and other gel, like instead of using gauze, for example, which is thick and it builds up and it makes for bulky first aid kits, I go with more of like a modern wound dressing that turns into a gel-like substance, and you cover it with a Tegaderm to keep everything in place. And because the Mountain RN, who's a good friend of mine from the channel, he taught me that you want your wound dressings to not be too dry and not too wet. You want it just right, and that's kind of the good combo that the hospital use. But I think that you should have different layers. So I have one on my person. I do carry some Band-Aids behind, and when you have a cell phone, like behind the case is where I keep extra Band-Aids for normal boo-boos like that the kids get. And
That's
then
a
I
good
think
idea.
for your like your emergency, not your emergency kits, but your like EDC bag, what you carry your work laptop in. I like going with more of the thin first IFAKs versus the bulky ones. You could get a lot of IFAKs that are kind of football shape or like a loaf of bread almost. I
Yeah.
like having flat ones because that it's easier to store that way. And if you get the more of the modern wound dressings, let's see if I have some here. You could store stuff flat just like you would any kind of book, and you have a lot of capabilities. And then in my other backpacks, I have some things that are more less first aid, more trauma type kits. Because again, in an urban environment, I'm worried about stuff like that. So I have
Right.
I have chest seals. I think it's important to have two tourniquets if you can in a particular kits. I have medical staples. I have a whole bunch here on my desk right now, and other things like that. So Israeli dressings and stuff. So I think like again for EDC, I just carry a small IFAK. For my computer bag, I have a larger red mesh-like sleeve that has first aid gears, and then in my larger backpacks, I have more of that trauma kit in there, and all of them kind of complement each other.
Kind of, it's like you have like tiers basically of like.
Yeah, so yeah, small bandages here on your person, medium-sized bandages in your computer bag, large trauma stuff. Someone gets stabbed or something, then you have your trauma kit, and then in the car I have something different. So again, it's all tiers; they all work with each other, and that's just what I do.
Cool. No, that's good. And that makes sense. Like one thing I've always struggled with is, carrying it directly on me, in the sense of everyday carry. Like,
yeah, I mean, you could do that if you have it's a flexible and stuff. It's not that big of a deal to have this, and it just having this here provides you with a lot of capabilities. Whether even for large gashes, like if you have those steri strips, I think those are awesome to carry on your person, because instead of having, most people don't carry sutures with them or a medical stapler, but you could just use those steri strips as a get me by to help seal those wounds. So,
yeah, no, it's a good call. I like it.
yeah.
Cool. All right. I did see Prepper Now's here. Thank you so much.
Welcome, Prepper Now. Nice.
Yeah, super cool guy. So
he says installing a dishwasher, a washer dryer. Okay.
Yeah.
First things first.
Those things are just things you have to do sometimes,
Yeah, that's preparedness. That's he's prepping.
Right. So let's see here. I'm trying to get back in the chat. And like I said before, guys, if you have specific questions, make sure you tag me or the Urban Prepper in them, just so we can see them. It highlights it in orange, makes it easier to decipher, and that way we make sure to get to it, okay? And Tom F., thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Let's see here. Gray Man Prepping wanted you to know that Undertaker was the big cheese. Just
I saw that. Yeah, I was just watching Undertaker matches earlier this morning. I bought that rowing machine eventually, even though I got spammed by the ads on it. And now, before everyone wakes up before school, I've been doing the rowing machine, and I watch an old school wrestling match. And sometimes I've been watching the new ones. Yeah, Undertaker's awesome. So
yeah, no, that's awesome. And and like wrestling was just kind of like Americana in many ways, and it kind of stayed away from a lot of the crap, which is what is respectable about it, that a lot of other like parts of the sports world got into. So
yeah, I don't. Yeah, with the whole wrestling thing, it's I mean, I don't talk too much politics on my channel, but to me, a lot of the stuff that I see on TV, it feels like in wrestling, there's heels and there's faces, there's baby faces, they're heels, and then they're in the locker room, they're all buddies with each other. It's all like they switch sides and stuff like that. I kind of think the same thing with a lot of stuff I see on TV, but that might just be me. So.
Hey, you know what? You might have a little bias. I don't know. So, so I did see Steve F. And Steve F. says he's wondering, do you lean more towards staying or going if things get bad in your area?
It depends. I did a video on this where actually I have the board over here. 1 second.
Yeah, no problem.
So I have like a bug-in board where I have like what I would bug in for, and these are the type of events that I had for my particular bug-in scenario. So things like a biological, a tsunami, a war. There's a heat wave and drought. I'm not going to go out bugging out during a heat wave, for example.
Okay.
If there's a martial law, I'm probably not going to just go out in the middle, during martial law. Probably lay low. Hurricane, I'll probably bunker into place. Volcanic eruption. It would depend though. Like it kind of depends on where it's coming from and some of the circumstances. But I think I lean more likely towards bugging in. as much as if at all possible, I think you should bug in because that's where all your stuff is. So like I have a pretty good pantry, for example. We have water, we have self-defense items, we have clothes, we have fuel, all those kind of things. So if it's no longer safe to be in where your bug in location is, yeah, then you have to bug out. But hopefully you're bugging out somewhere, the predefined area that has some additional supplies. Again, I'm not the kind of person that's going to go in the middle of the jungle and build some primitive shelter and doing all that kind of stuff. I have to kind of rely on kind of preparing ahead. I super inspired by Batman, for example, like the whole preparedness thing. Like that, Batman's not the best. He can't beat a lot of these superheroes with just strength and speed and all that stuff. They all have superpowers, but he's like the best prepper of all time, in my opinion. So,
Yeah.
And so I try to use that same kind of spirit in the prepping things that I do. So there are some events. I have a video on it called Bug In, Bug Out, like what to do for certain emergency. And I have 30 emergency scenarios that I think are the top ones, and then what I would do during those ones. So, but a long story short, I would gravitate more towards bugging in if at all possible.
Cool. And that makes sense, and I'll use this opportunity just in case anybody's not seen it or something like that. But I did have a similar video at one point, and I offer this to anybody who's asking for it, just because it's I guess it could be useful. Let's see here. Try not to throw anybody's name under the bus here, but because that's how I label these when I send them out. But this is just something I created, which is kind of similar to that idea. And it's, if you guys in the chat are interested in something like this, you can email me at magicpepper@gmail.com, or you can send me a contact link through my website. But
nice, look at that.
Basically, yeah. So what this whole thing does is you choose like what's happening. So you can say like natural disaster, right? And it like highlights things based on like what you might need to do in that moment, or
that's
as like
awesome.
a reaction towards it. Yeah, it was just something I kind of like put together just for fun, and then I got way overwhelmed with people asking for them and had to send out like 1,000 of them. So, but I also was just trying to like help the community out. So, so that's something that's available if anybody has interest in something like that. Okay.
Yeah, I also think it's good to have like an ice, I call it an ice binder, but like in case of emergency type binder, where you have like, okay, the certain type of emergencies, and I'm not going to show all of it because you'll get too much personal information. But I think having something like that on hand is important, and having it in some kind of fireproof case, ideally.
Yeah, no, 100%. If having planning and like having, I guess doing like war gaming is really important. Strategy and having just like having those thought processes go through, and actually trying to problem solve possible scenarios is definitely a big part of preparedness that I think a lot of people might kind of poo-poo at, because it sounds like you're just being fantastical. Oh, this guy's over here daydreaming again. But it's like, no, if this happens, how would you react? And then if that ever does occur, at least you have some kind of plan of action, where a lot of people might just wait till it happens to see, what happens next, I guess,
Yeah, I'm always, when I'm driving, I'm like, well, what would I do if the earthquake happened? If an earthquake happened right now, like, or what would I do if this happened right now? What would I do if a flash flood happened? And yeah, some people probably think that you're being paranoid, but I like at least thinking about it, and you start refining your systems when you're thinking along those lines. And for me, it's I'm having to do that because I have a family. Like they're going to depend on me to make the right decision on those kind of things. So
right.
Like if I'm driving with the kids, so I think it's important to think about all those kind of things. Again, Batman would do it, so I think that we should do it. So
yeah, no, I was hanging out with a couple of guys today, and one of them just said, "Hey, okay, EMP right now, all the vehicles are down. Like, what do we do?"
Yeah,
it was just like a good little exercise to talk about. Like, I guess we're gonna start walking, and it was like, man, like and that's how it would happen too. It'd just be like no one expects it, and then all of a sudden you're walking.
Yeah. So, yeah, and for EMP, I think I would probably bug in that type of scenario. I think that I have it on my board, I think, as EMP bug in, but
yeah,
again, it'd be hard for me to leave. Earlier this year, like I woke up like in the middle of the night, and I was worried about an EMP for some reason, and so I have it now in a Faraday bag, basically, or like a Faraday cage on some gear, and I just kind of like just on the safe side, I'm going to put my laptop in there, and I don't know why I just woke up in the middle of the night and did it. So
hey. You got to trust your instincts,
Yeah. It ended up not having to be a problem, but it gave me peace. A lot of like prepping, I think, is just peace of mind. Like if I do a little thing, like a little first aid kit, Okay, I got peace of mind. I'm cool on that. Okay, now to the next thing. Okay, peace of mind. Okay, and slowly it's like eating an elephant. You just one bite at a time, and then next thing you know, it's like, oh yeah, I have a peace of mind about a lot of things now. So
Well, and I think that somebody like myself, I've definitely stricken with certain forms of OCD, and that definitely plays into it. Kind of like needing to like have everything put away, like
yeah,
knowing that you're good for like this particular situation. It's an unfortunate motivator because sometimes I'm like, I can't afford that, but I think we need to do that anyway.
yeah. I have a lot of OCD for kits, like when I have like a prepping type thing, but everything else, like if you were to look at my desk now, it's, there's stuff all over the place. It's not organized, but for prepping stuff, I'm naturally disorganized. So I have to force myself really hard to organize my prep and my kits and stuff because it's important. So
Yeah, and honestly, your organization video of like how you keep all your stuff organized with the bins and all that stuff
yeah,
was super super helpful. I mean, I think it was really good ideas there. So
yeah. Thanks so much.
yeah, no, I think it was cool, and I think a lot of people got a lot of value from that. So
Yeah,
uh,
it helps me, and so what if I have something that helps me and I think it's worthwhile, I share it with people. So
cool.
sometimes we were talking offline, like some of the stuff I'm doing, I don't think people would want to watch it but it's a prepping type thing. But I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, no worries. And I got a final question from
Sure.
Patreon. I just want to get that going. So, and they just wanted to know: are gas generators designed to be operated in the rain, and do I need to prep a rain shelter for my generator specifically?
The people that I know that they have like a generator cage and it is I've seen it covered, but you still want to have airflow with it. Like we have a Honda generators. Yeah, I think that you should have some kind of shed basically, but it's still plenty of ventilation in it if you have a gas one. We in our home we bought our home back in 2017, and I'd like to get propane installed. So if the power were to go off, we could still power things with propane. But yeah, I think you should have it in a ventilated area away from your house.
Yeah. Yeah, and I agree. I think keeping it out of harsh conditions is a good way to go, but you don't want to, like you said, block off airflow and everything else. So
Yeah.
just be reasonable with it, I guess.
Yep.
Okay, so and like I said in the chat, anybody's got questions, make sure you ask them. Grayman Prepping did ask your take on comms in the urban environment because
Yeah.
especially in like big cities, like I'm sure the airwaves are super congested.
Yeah, totally. I mean, yeah, I mean, having communications is important. I'm concerned about like communicating with people that aren't preppers, like my mom, for example. She's not going to go get a ham license or anything like that. So how do I communicate with her? I think there's a lot to the whole idea of mesh networking, like a I have a lot of these GoTennas all over the place, like in different that are charged through solar, and to creating kind of it's more of like for like a neighborhood watch grid, but it's a mesh network that people could just use with their normal phones, whether they're some 80-year-old grandpa that doesn't want to get a technician's license. I think it's a super important, and you should definitely, for me, like you like Mount Rushmore of like the people that you should know. You should know someone that's good with like a food person, like a gardener, someone that grows their own food. You should know a medical person. You should know someone with a tactical person, and you should know a comms person. Like those are that's the Mount Rushmore of like the ultimate prepper skills, I think. And most of the time, it's hard to be like a master at all of those. But
Right.
again, but it's funny. I drive around and I have a I don't want to look like a stalker, but I keep I have a map of whenever I drive by and I see someone with a ham antenna that's at their home that's obvious. I'm like, oh, okay, that's probably a prepper over there. And so okay, I put a little that's where that person is, and I kind of know who people around like my neighborhood within several blocks on who's operators and stuff. But I think it's important to, even if you just have it as a scanner and you don't talk on it. I mean, it's not in an emergency situation. You could use it for transmitting, even if you're, like my mom, for example. I don't know if she's watching the live stream, but I think you could program these things just to be scanners for the local repeaters and stuff within your area. Having knowledge, like if there was an information blackout, that would be a lot of people. I don't know if they'd be ready for that. So and it'd be you kind of feeling naked a little bit without information. So.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. And I think especially in a more densely populated environment, like you said, you can kind of point out those different, ham antennas and stuff that are out there. And a lot of those guys seem to have like a weird antenna measuring contest between each other sometimes, but it's funny that you can like kind of pinpoint who's part of the whole preparedness community by just kind of knowing those things to think about.
Yeah,
and a lot of people, they drive by a house like that all day long, every single day on their commute, and never think twice about the fact that there's an antenna on the roof for some reason,
Yeah. Unless you know what you're looking for, the people probably don't know. They probably just think it's an eyesore. Oh man, that's some 1980s antenna. But yeah, I have our neighbors are pretty cool. I have a map of all the houses within my neighborhood, and I know who. And you start building. I think it's important to know your neighbors, especially if you're in an urban environment. And
huge.
So I know, this person they do. I think gardening and kind of bartering and trading for. Hey, I got a bunch of tomatoes. I can't eat them all. Do you want some? Oh yeah, I got a bunch of plums. I work with all the neighbors, and we kind of know what each person has. Oh yeah, this person has chickens, and they don't know what to do with all the eggs, and we have this and stuff. So I kind of build up a little database of what what my neighbors have, and who has like a radio, an antenna, and who has a chicken coop, and who has the tomato garden and stuff. So I think again, it's good to be friends with your neighbors because they could have your back when needed. So.
Yep, networking is huge, and I think it's just something that's difficult for us to say in our society. People are very closed off and very kind of busy. And so it is hard to kind of make time to just go to your neighbor and say hello,
Yeah, every Christmas, I want to I feel like my neighbors are like my perimeter defense. They're like the eyes and ears beyond where our home is. And so I have one neighbor, we kind of got off on the wrong foot initially, and he didn't really like us too much, but I won him over because I found out that he's a bourbon fan. I like bourbon. And so every Christmas now I get him a bottle of Bullet or Maker's Mark or something. And now we do like a bourbon exchange. And with all of my neighbors, I make sure that they all get gifts for Christmas. But because they could maybe save the day on certain emergencies. So.
Yeah, peace offering,
Peace offering, yeah. And now we're good buddies. Now but it started off on the wrong foot.
Yeah, and that can happen, And there are neighbors where you might need to meet them to know that you want them to not be around. So there's always going to be that too,
Yeah, I've seen all sorts of cool comments coming in. It's in the chat room here.
Yeah, and there's some really good information that gets kind of exchanged in the live chat, which I think is super cool.
Yeah,
I do know. Let's see, that somebody brought this up, and I kind of want to just address it because I kind of have thoughts on this whole situation, and it kind of correlates to some other things happening right now. But Shade Tree Prepper said, what's your thoughts on the super hypersonic, nuclear missile from China? And we don't have anti capabilities for that. Should I prep potassium iodide and stuff like that? And I think when you're talking about events like that, existential threats that we don't have any capability of dealing with on our own, right? We're preppers, we're average people, and we don't really have any say whether or not something like that was to occur. I at least personally, I think, having stuff like potassium iodide and stuff, that should just be part of general preparedness, like being well-rounded and having those things is always going to be a plus. But I look at things like that. I look at things like even the La Palma situation with the volcanic activity there and everything else. What we have to remember is that preparing and prepping is the thing that we do that allows us to react to those situations once they occur. So like getting fixated on those different scenarios can be interesting or even somewhat exciting in some ways to say like, oh my gosh, look at this, what's happening. But at the end of the day, until it actually occurs, all we're doing is preparing ourselves to be able to react to that occurrence in the best way possible. Or that's how I look at it, at least,
Yeah, there's some stuff that you can't really prepare for. So like, there's no matter how much you prepare, unless you're a billionaire, maybe you could do some stuff. But yeah, that stuff with the whole missile thing, I mean, it's scary. So yeah, and I imagine like back in the 40s when a lot of like the nuclear stuff started coming out, like and. The other side probably felt similar type things. So yeah, I think it's just like try to do the best that you can with the situations that you might be able to manage through. But if there's some humongous LE event, like extinction level event with some asteroid. I mean, what can you? That's going to land right in Washington State. Like, well, okay, what am I going to do during that? So,
Right.
I try not to live in too much fear though for a lot of things. So there's some because these topics that we're talking about and thinking about and preparing about and strategizing about, they're scary topics, and you could really get depressed about a lot of it and really just be like, yeah, there's a lot of preppers that don't smile anymore because everything's pretty scary out there. And so I try to just kind of try to enjoy life and the most important things, which is family, and trying to do the best I can with what I can with the resources that I have available and with my level of skills, and kind of hope for the best and try to do stuff based off of probability. Focus on the stuff that's high probability first, and the stuff that you have no control over. There's not a whole bunch that you can do except for be a good dad and be a good husband and be a good son and all those kind of things. So
yeah, no, it makes sense. We're ready to react to it once it occurs.
Yep.
But worrying about happening isn't going to help us a whole lot because like you said, there's not much you can do about it if it happens.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I saw a comment from the Apex Prepper there. Good to see you, Bernie. They can focus on what you could control, like some stuff like. When you get in a fender bender, there's stuff that you just can't control when it happens. So like when,
no, and that's good. That's why I wanted to address that because I know there's a lot of talk about those things like on a regular basis, but I think sometimes we forget that that's like what we're doing by prepping is exactly because of those possibilities and not because there's anything else we can do about them. This is the thing, preparedness and just being ready for whatever could happen.
Yeah.
So let's see here. Get back in the chat a little bit, and then and don't I know you're here, you're the guest, but don't be afraid to ask anything you want to ask. I mean, whatever you got, man. We're
yeah. Well, I'm going to have you on my live stream at Apex Prepper. We got to get that in the calendar because he always helps me out for these. But yeah, I have a whole bunch of questions that I'm preparing to ask you on little things like I've always been a big fan of the way that you. Well, first off, I'm a fan of almost all prepper channels, but with yours especially, I find that you're able to talk about these topics in a way that's accessible for a wide audience. I know that there's some firearm topics, but the way that you present it is, I think it's family friendly, which is good. And I like the overall presentation. I even like how you film it oftentimes where you're staged to the side a little bit, and the way that you look up, like it gives like a confidence, and I try to do that more often because instead of looking down, that was something my mom always told me as a little kid, like look chin up, like, and the way that you do it, it gives me peace of mind hearing the topic and the way that you're presenting something, because the way that just through body language alone, it presents it in a way that I find I trust you on it, and the topics that you're doing are stuff that everyone's kind of thinking about. So I'm a big fan, and that's why I was really excited to come on your live stream. But I'm trying to save my questions I'm being greedy because when you're on my live stream, I have this slew of questions I'm going to ask you. So again, I love all the little details. So.
Yeah, no, that's cool, and I appreciate that. I really do. I think that I can speak for everybody here in the chat that like you're a very influential part of the preparedness community. So having a compliment like that come from you, means a lot. So I appreciate it. And go ahead.
Well, yeah. I mean, I just feel like I'm just some dude in his, by himself in an office talking in front of a camera. So I just feel like any other person. I've been doing it for a long time, and sometimes I go through down periods where I don't feel like I have anything to say, and then other times where I feel like I have stuff to say. But I think we're all preppers. We're all in this together, and we all have kind of some natural alliances with each other. So again, but the little things that you do, whether it be the thumbnails, the titles, the topics, the way that you present the topics, the body language you have during the topics, the lighting, even the Middle Earth stuff, I'm a fan of all that stuff. So
yeah, the Middle Earth thing is funny because it's like, how am I going to block this window out? I know this tapestry that I still have. And then it's like, now it's just part of the deal, I guess, according to Chris Penton. So, but I am.
Someone said Urban Prepper loves magic.
Hey, it's all good,
Prepping bro love.
we gotta have our backs around here, you know what I mean? And one thing that I try to keep in mind that is always kind of a motivator is that every single person, if someone's prepared for a week and the next person's prepared for 6 months and the next person's prepared for a year, that means each of those people has that much more time before the other person comes knocking on their door,
Yeah.
and or that much more time before another person might become a problem. So like the more people we can get prepared, even if it's just, I've got 3 days worth of food. Well, you know what? That's 3 days where you're taking care of yourself,
Yeah.
which is huge. And it's safe for more of us and all of us if the majority of people are in that same boat,
Totally. I that's why one of the reasons why I try to keep my the topics that I do and the content fairly universal. I don't really care where you lie politically or what religion you have or anything like that, where you live. Prepping should be a universal thing. It should just be like everyone has car insurance because they're worried that just in case something bad were to happen and they get an fender bender, they have that insurance there to back them up. And the cool thing with prepping is that for your prepping insurance, you have some cool gadgets and stuff too. But yeah, I think the more preppers out there, the less of a kind of a burden on the system or on the grid during times of emergency times that there are, and it'll help during those situations. So I think everyone should be a prepper. So
yeah, 100%. And used to just be the way it was, and
yeah, yeah. Our grandparents they would never call it prepping. Oh, that's just you have a 55-gallon barrel of oats in the downstairs in the basement type thing. That was just not normal. So
right,
we've kind of gotten away from that from society, where now it's just like just in time delivery and everything's like now like we're fast paced information and the land of TikTok where everything's short attention spans. And like I think our grandparents had a better thought process on a lot of things.
Well, they're living much in the now and like in just like in their world, and they didn't want anything to be able to penetrate that world, So they had to, put up defenses, which was, having stuff stashed away for a long winter possibly, or whatever it was. So, we moved away from it, but I think a lot of people are waking up and moving back to it. And all it took was an entire year of everybody realizing how fragile things are,
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone appreciates toilet paper a lot more than they used to. So, yeah, I had my toilet paper stash before all the COVID stuff happened. A few years in advance, so we were good to go on that. And so, but yeah, I think with what's happened over the last couple of years now, or 18 months or whatever it's been, like I think it should be a wake up call that everyone needs toilet paper, everyone needs a good pantry, and those kind of things. So some of the things that we've used during this time. So I imagine that our kids, like the way that my grandma used to talk about the Great Depression and what they had to do for food and for money and what they would eat and stuff. I think our kids will probably remember a lot of the stuff that's going on now, and hopefully they have that on the back of their mind that that's just what you do. So that you have a pantry with enough food that if the stores get shut down or if they're out of stock, that you'll be good to go. So
and we lost that. We're going back to it. We're bringing it back. That's what I'm saying it right now. We're bringing it back.
Okay. Prepping's cool now. It's we used to, although I'm always worried that that we're going to get canceled someday. But being like being prepared for those kind of, at least the stuff going on now, it's trendy. So
yeah. And Brian Keith Prepper, I want to say thank you for the super chat. And I can't say things like that just because it does flag us nowadays. I don't know if you know that or not, but there's a certain label that they use that we'll just say the initials are DT, and they like to throw that around lately. So, and let's see here. I've got let's see. There was one I was looking for. Somebody said, hey, Matt, did you cut your hair? Which, yes, that's my name. If you didn't know, my name is Matt. And no, I didn't cut my hair. It just
he showed his hair early before wardrobe and makeup came in.
Yeah, it's been in a beanie all day. So I felt like instead of looking like a 90s bad guy from Richie Rich or something, I would put a hat on. But we can reveal the secrets. It's fine. And then Exile Reviews, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Look Who's Prepping Now says they try to censor us all, but they can't silence us all. You know what I mean? And that is where it's at. And eventually, I think we are making progress. And in case people don't know, and this is something a lot of people don't know, it's there are people working with the people at YouTube to improve the things that get flagged and to improve like what's allowed, because there's a lot of misinterpretation, and there is people out there that they employ to go through and just, review things and deny them or approve them that might not be fully trained or fully educated on what is or isn't allowed. So there's a lot of working parts here that goes into play. And they are actually, from what I understand from people I've talked to, they're actually working on making things better for people, especially in the Second Amendment arena. So, is there any hope there? I don't know, but I'm just throwing it out there because it seems like there might be some positivity coming that way,
Yeah.
Which I think we can hope for anyway.
Yeah, hopefully.
And Grisio Nemo, Matt the Marauder, is an alter ego. I think that's just my real ego. I'm just waiting to, come to fruition. I want everyone to know about it. So I know we're getting close to the hour mark. I did want to say, if you guys have any questions left for the Urban Prepper, make sure you post them now so we can just address a couple more things before we head out. But I do want to say, if somebody wants to get into preparedness and they live in a city, right? And I know it's very easy for people to feel like there's no hope, basically, like living in a city, right? Like, well, I'm on the 4th floor of an apartment building and there's no way I'm going to get out, why even try? I mean, for those people, like, what kind of, what can you say that might help motivate them to, look at it from a different angle? Or like, what would you suggest to somebody who wants to get started, but just feels like there's no point,
Yeah, I mean, again, for most, like in I don't know, like a zombie type movie, you'd probably want to be far away from the hordes, for example. But again, most emergencies are going to be not as glamorous, not as kind of flashy. They're going to be basic things like losing a job or something like that, or being sick for extended period of time or something like that. Again, start with food and water first. From there, there's a lot of different things. It's just a whole lifestyle and mindset as far as what preparedness is. It doesn't have to. A lot of people say, well, just get out of the city, but there's a lot of people that their jobs are like, it requires being in that environment, like if you're working in engineering, for example. I think that there's a lot of people for example, that in Tokyo, for example, that were again in the Pacific Rim of Fire, where they have to deal with a lot of earthquakes, so they have to be prepared for those kind of things. So I would start on preparedness topics that are nothing that's out of the norm for your particular region. So if you're living on the coast, I think that you should have some kind of a tsunami or hurricane style preparedness. No one's going to question that. And eventually you're going to start building other type of emergencies that might happen in your area. And you're going to be more prepared for the common things that would happen in your region. And it's just going to make you an overall more prepared person for the more extreme things that might, if we're talking civil unrest and stuff, or anything along those lines. So if you're in an apartment building, I think that you should go for more of a minimalist preparedness model. Try to emulate a lot of the stuff that they're doing over in Tokyo, in Japan, for example, for organization, because they have some very clever home organization things, the tiny homes, for example. And then I think long term, I think the goal for all preppers is to have a homestead that's away from the city. Even myself, as the urban prepper, that's the ultimate goal, is to get to that state where you're a little bit away from the masses. I think that is key, and I think you could probably do that just by starting off with if you could get some vacation property and go out there once a summer with your family, and then next thing you know, then you're putting a cabin there and you're going there every quarter or something like that, or family weekend trips, and then next thing you know, it's your full-time homestead. I think just kind of, again, I would try to focus on the family first for all the preparedness things that you're doing, to be more prepared for the people that really count on you. Instead of having it your bug out location, have it be your family cabin, and then it trying to make practical things have like a kill two birds with one stone type thing, where it's your family cabin, but it's also your bug out location, or it's your new car, but it's also a bug out vehicle, and doing that with a little bit of everything, it's just going to help overall, and it'll give you peace of mind for the most common emergency scenarios. So, and there's some stuff, again, there's some stuff you just can't control, so you can just do the best with what you can.
That's awesome. And you know what, I think that's a good approach, like small steps, and just starting to, move into it slowly kind of forces you to have that snowball effect where you just start going all out eventually,
Yeah. Again, it's prepping. It can be a depressing topic to think about all the time, because I'm always thinking about these horrific things that could happen. And you gotta smile on a lot of these kind of things, like smile in the face of danger type. So because again, it could consume you, and you could get in just kind of a toxic a mindset, and I don't think that's a good place to be. That's not how I like operating in. So
Totally, totally, and
yeah.
that's good to hear. I did see Tom F put in a question that said, what's the next big prepping goal each of you have? They just became mortgage free, and they're trying to get a whole house generator set up. So that's cool. Very good idea, and it's something I think everybody should eventually be striving towards. What would be like your next big prep goal?
Well, right now I've been focusing a lot just on food, like going back to a lot of the basics for like especially like a pressure canning meats. I've been getting into a lot. I was so focused heavily on like having meats and stuff within a freezer, but eventually your generator might run out, or you might not have fuel for that. And so I've been getting into pressure canning meats and watching a lot of videos from Alaska Prepper and Sutton Stays and others that talk about those kind of topics. But as far as like next, like if we're talking like what I want to buy, like gear and stuff, the one I with my son, he's in Boy Scouts. We're trying to do more like outdoor activity stuff, and I'm trying to beef up my vehicle to be more of like an overlanding style vehicle, so we could do a lot of these adventures. And we're doing it for family, for bonding with my kids. But knowing in the back of my mind, again, kill two birds with one stone. Yeah, it could also be serve as a bug out vehicle, and I think overlanding and bug out vehicles just goes hand in hand with each other. So that's one. The propane. I want to get a propane system in the home in addition to solar panels, but all of those things are expensive and it takes a lot of money. So
yeah, no, 100%. And I guess from my side, all of our big preps that we're trying to invest in coming up, at least in the next season, are all outdoor related. So gardens are going to be set up with raised beds. We're trying to get stuff figured out with maybe like some kind of an earth sheltered greenhouse. And I'm hoping to build a berm and get a shooting range on the property. So
sweet.
That's like a dream come true. That's something I've been wanting for a very long time. So if I can get that, then you can expect some awesome videos to come out because it'll be easy to do.
Yeah, that's another thing. I'm just trying to get back into. I have so many videos that I have filmed, and I just need to edit them, and I don't have the time to edit them. So the audio's all done, all the B-roll footage, everything's done with it. It's just the editing. So I need to manage my time better to be able to crank out the more regular videos. Sometimes I go in spurts and stuff. I really enjoy doing the shorts, the TikTok style ones. I have a dedicated TikTok phone. That's it's not on there's no SIM card in it, there's no contacts, there's no text messages. It's just because I have distrust for some certain apps. So it's like my dedicated one that I use for that. And because I feel like on YouTube, we know a lot of the preparedness audience on YouTube, but there's other social media outlets like TikTok it's a totally different audience, younger audience, and I'm trying to help get a lot of those people into thinking about preparedness over there, which is it's not a popular topic over there. So I really enjoy doing those kind of videos and having opportunities to do humor and make stuff fun and accessible, and I get my family involved in it too. So I guess a goal that I have is just to be able to crank out more content more regularly and more efficiently, because my videos aren't the most efficient to film. Like it takes 16, 20 hours to make a EDC kit video. It's not the most efficient use of my time versus a 1 hour live stream. We're covering all sorts of topics. So
yeah, well, and I can tell there's a lot of work that goes into your videos, so I get it. And my wife follows you on TikTok, so I know.
It's funny. I got recognized as not as a YouTuber, but I was at Starbucks and are you a TikToker? You were on my for you page. I was like, oh, yes. And it was like it was my like a 19-year-old barista. Like so again, that's a younger audience. That most of the people that watch my videos are like 35 to 55 males for the most part. But over there, like my audience is younger than 25. So it's I'm trying to make a prepper so.
Hey, to be fair, we're just like boomers over here on YouTube.
Yeah.
All the next gens all over there on TikTok. So at least you're one of them, okay?
Yeah. And Great Man Prepper's doing awesome in the chat room. I see all these like links and stuff. He's killing it.
Yeah, no, he's a professional. He doesn't want to look like it, but I can tell. He tries to hide it.
Yeah, no, we've been texting, and I gotta. We're Great Man. We're gonna link up. It's just yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't worry, Gray Man. I vetted you. I said you were cool. There's some shadiness we were worried about, but we're good. And I'm kidding. There's no shadiness, I swear. So, we are at an hour. I think it's, about time to wrap it up. And I definitely want to, thank you for coming on here. I really
Thank you
did
so much.
appreciate
Yeah.
the conversation. So,
Yeah, this
uh,
is a blast. We have to do it again.
yeah, no, I'm totally down, man. And like, I kind of just didn't know what to expect stepping into the realm of live streaming. And I just said, all right, I'm doing one every week now. It's just going to happen. And it's been a really good time. And my favorite part is being able to interact directly with the chat.
That's awesome because you get to hear from the people that enjoy your videos. Oops, try not to hit my microphone there, but yeah, you get to hear interact with the people in real time on stuff that you don't have pre-planned. I think it's a blast to do. It's a lot of fun. And I think you're going to be coming on my live stream, I think, in a couple weeks from now, right? On
November 18th.
November 18th, Thursday, November 18th at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We're going to have Magic Prepper on there. We might have to have some cameo appearances from others too. But yeah, it's always fun to chat with people, with the folks that are into prepping in the chat room like this. It's
100%. So yeah, and look, I'm down to do it again sometime. And if you're cool with sticking around a little bit after the chat, just to kind of chat real quick. And
then, the after hours, the
backstage or whatever.
Yeah, the backstage. It's profanity riddled.
We're definitely not the same people. But, I do want to thank everybody for being here tonight too. Not just you, but like everyone in the chat, everybody who was hanging out and interacting. I mean, without you guys, it doesn't really flow. And this is where it's at. Being able to talk to everybody, get questions from the people in the chat, try to address things that people are actually concerned about. And I don't know. I just really think this is a great format for us to kind of spread the word about preparedness.
Yeah.
So, all right, guys. Well, I think that's going to be it. Make sure if there's any information you were looking for when it came to some of the suggestions that the Urban Prepper had for you, go back to the re-upload and you can get that information, especially about the offline maps. I think that was super valuable. So,
that's fun. Yeah, and if they want to leave a comment, I'll keep an eye on the video and try to reply to any kind of comments. So, it won't be in real time on the chat. If they're watching the rerun, I could try to get to some of those ones. So.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's awesome. And then, hopefully we'll do this again soon. And you guys know if you ever need anything directly from me, magicprepper.com. And then, I always do my thing because it's just how I end stuff and it just seems to work. Plus, people get mad at me now if I don't do it. So I'll just do it. And that's going to be it for Magic Prepper.